Together, we're going to go to the seaside this morning. First, we'll saunter to West Wales, and then we'll be off to North Norfolk, to Morstan and Blakeney. And then this sounds of... it'll make sense in a second.
Sounding Coastal Change is a project that uses sound, music and different kinds of listening to explore how the North Norfolk coast is changing and how people's lives are changing with it. It also considers how it might be possible to bring human and non-human voices together to think about the future of this living landscape.
Blakeney.
Blakeney's beautiful.
Blakeney is a special place.
Blakeney.
Blakeney's beautiful.
I love Blakeney.
Hi, my name is Ashton and today we are going to be recording the sounds of bugs.
Blakeney changes all the time.
I don't think you could find a village that's more caring than this.
Well, it's always changing, you know, it's never quite the same. It's always slightly different. Oh, can you go and get a boat? There's the water's coming up. Can you? Don't be silly. I've only got an Austin 7 saloon car. I can't get a boat on that. And even if I could, if you've got water here, they've got more water at Blakeney. And of course they had. And it went right up, you know, right up the valley to Glanford.
Yes, I was certainly here. It was a dreadful night, Dick. It really was. The first we really knew was that the tide was being pushed up by the wind blowing very strong in the afternoon, and we realised then there was going to be a terrific flood.
It certainly is a very high mark over there. Roughly how much higher than normal was that then?
Oh, I should say the higher than that tide should have been would probably be in the neighbourhood of about 16, 18 feet.
From the marshes to the ocean, from the point out to the sea, gazing north to the horizon, just as far as you can see, looking out from Blakeney Watch House, or beyond the Haysborough light, beneath the waves of the rolling ocean, Doggerland is out of sight. Doggerland is out of sight.
The nature of the coast is changing. It's managed retreat, isn't it? It's the option now, so it's a lot of erosion.
You could walk from here to Holland, or where the Thames met with the Rhine. There were homes and there were dwellings, disappeared in the
Managed
midst
retreat
of time.
at Sheringham doesn't apply, but managed retreat west of Weybourne does, Cley. They're letting the stone bank, the pebble bank, change its profile. They're losing stones to the tide. Blakeney Spit is moving west slowly, bit by bit, and the cost and the difficulty of managing a bank every winter, which could be destroyed in one storm, and was, more than every winter, every other winter, So they're going to allow the bank to work its way inland, flatten out, and the grazing marshes may become salt marshes, so that the sea will be where it is most of the time, but when there's a storm it may sweep up and it reaches the road.
So it's a reasonably unstable bit of coast. Cliffs fall down because they're soft. They're not rocky cliffs. They're it's just soil or mud, or call it what you will, and therefore it falls down. And if you get a tidal surge, well, that's very easy to wash that away. Villages like Winterton and others have really lost an awful lot of their land.
Environment Agency have to, they have a formula to decide how much money they spend in an area, and it's down to how many people there are, how many houses would be flooded if.
All the marshland and everything was considered when we were kids as our backyard. I wouldn't spend any time inside a house unless I had to go home for something to eat or I had to go to sleep. I was on the marsh the whole time.
It is astonishing.
Yeah.
There's no children in the village at all now.
Gosh.
My daughter and my grandchildren come here and they love it down here, but they can't afford to live here, but that's always here for them. And that's the attitude I take.
Nora Clogston, a lady who lived in the village quite a few years ago, could see how the village was becoming a victim of its own beauty in the fact of people coming down and enjoying everything that we had to offer. Local people were being priced out of just basic housing. So she started off the Blakeney Neighbourhood Housing Society, and it grew from there.
Well, since the society took over, they've had the roofs refelted, I think, and new floors put in. And since I've been in, I've had a tap put indoors and a sink. But I haven't a drain. I have to carry all the water in a bucket to the drain 25 yards down in the yard.
Does this also apply to you, Mrs. Clark?
Yes, well, I have a tap, cold water tap, but no sink. So I have to just empty mine from the bowl, but also into the bucket. We're hoping to have a bathroom put in with hot water sometime this year.
Hello, Colin. Hello. How much longer do you reckon you're going to have to do this then?
Not much longer, I hope.
Why not?
The Blakeney Housing Society have taken over the house now, and in a few weeks' time we're going to modernise it completely, right through it. Well, I'm shortly hoping to get married.
Oh, yes?
And I wouldn't bring my wife down here in the condition it's in now. But, well, as soon as that's done, I mean, I'll have a nice, comfortable living accommodation, I wouldn't mind. Had it not been done, I'd have moved out of Blakeney altogether.
The Housing Society is not only saving Blakeney, it is saving its spirit.
If you contrast Blakeney to Brancaster just along the coast, for the last few years, nobody who currently lives in Brancaster was born in Brancaster, not a single soul. Whereas in Blakeney there are still quite a lot.
Local people can't afford to live here, and it's slowly moving along the coast to Sheringham, etc. And at the rate we're going, the countryside is being turned into a theme park.
I think people are beginning to sort of creak under the strain of that sort of very long visitor season.
We had this idea that it would be really interesting to use sound to think about the environment along the coast and how the coast changes. And we came to Norfolk because we were invited here by the National Trust. The coast in North Norfolk is changing. They were interested in how we kind of cope with that, how we cope with that constant change, and it's been changing for generations. So we're trying to use sound to find ways to enable people to imagine what it is that they really like about this coast and what it is and how they might like to see it in the future.
For all of the howls of anguish that there have been, that the wind farm is ugly and despoils the horizon and it isn't what we like, by the time they've been for 25 years, they will become that horizon, won't they? And I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's some movement to save the wind farm.
Yeah,
Really
I'd never be
at all
surprised.
surprised.
No.
I think the biggest change is the silting up of the channel down the quay, and that obviously is a major concern. Because part of Blakeney's charm is sailing, and the time will come when it won't be able to happen.
Mark Lewis, what do you see when delivering your bread at night?
I drive through the night. Starry sky over the Norfolk coast is stunning.
What are the skies like in the towns and cities?
Over Kingston it's a sickly orange, and in Norwich it's completely hidden by light pollution.
Is there anything we can do about it?
We can all do something to stop this blight.
Switching off unnecessary lights would be a great start.
Hello, it is me, Cley White, and I'm joined here with Erica, and we're going to be doing bird songs. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Now we're ready.
Hello, this is Luke C. and William, and we will be recording whatever sounds come up with these bushes. And here we go.
December 2013 sort of sits in the minds of most people here on the coast, because it was the time whereby pretty much everything that needs to come together came together to create what was the storm, and it was not just the storm itself, but it was more to do with the surge in the tide that came on top of a high tide, and so the coast itself was inundated, and there was a lot of obviously flooding, properties affected, wildlife affected as well. And I suppose that became a very much evident on the coast as to how vulnerable the coast is, to an event like that.
My father came out with a sentence: you say what you like about the climate, but I tell you there's more water in the sea. More water in the sea? He said, yeah. He said, when I was a boy, the tidal range was greater, and we didn't get such high tides. Now the water's higher up, and there's more water in the sea. So there must be, with all this ice melting.
Of course, flooding is nothing new on this coast. 1953 floods, but you go back to Victorian times, they used to call them rages, and flooding itself may become more frequent because of climate change, but what is clear is the timing of the cycles of nature, and new species are appearing on the coast. So a few decades ago, little egrets would have been a great rarity. They were a Mediterranean species and Southern European species, but today now we see more of the little egrets along the coast than we probably do of our native Hansa, which is the Norfolk term for the grey heron. What are sometimes perceived by people as catastrophic events, nature is very capable of adapting to those events if it's allowed to and if it has the capacity.
There used to be a species of ground beetle which was found at Salthouse that hasn't been seen for many years, but that may have been killed, if you like, by the storm surge.
A lot of the best wildlife habitats are now fragments, they're islands surrounded by less hospitable environments, and so as the climate changes, it's much harder for wildlife to move if it's living in a little isolated oasis, and you're perhaps talking about species like adders or grass snakes or lizards. You start looking at anything in nature and you find it hitched to the rest of the universe. That's a pretty big challenge for us here in North Norfolk.
You can't beat the sea. You can try, but you won't win.
It's all the senses, isn't it? We do spend a lot of time looking at things, but there's all about the smells and the sounds and everything else, touch as well. So that is part of the appreciation of the area.
I'm really struck when I meet this project by something I read by a wonderful nature writer called Kathleen Jamie. She's got a book of nature writing called Findings. And in it, there's just this little phrase dropped at the bottom of a page about a third of the way through, where she invites us all to extend the web of our noticing.
When I die, bury me low, where I can feel the running tide flow, a sweeter place than here I'll not know, the rolling dunes and the marshland. Cliff cliffs of white stand close to see, the stiff quay waters running to me, and Glavenside, fair river and tree, are ranged along the marshland.